Hello.
Hey Pete, how are you?
I'm doing very good. Getting deja vu like we just did this. So all the
Okay,
talk
so today was a challenging day.
today was a very challenging day. However, I think we are going to end this short podcast on what happened in the market today on a very interesting different setup that I think a lot of people don't take advantage of as much as they probably should.
All right, that
How's,
sounds great.
how's that for a segue into later?
All right, so everybody has to just hang on.
All right, so Monday afternoon, last day of August, I guess the last official day of trading for the summer.
All right, true. And now we start a new month.
Exactly, exactly. So I guess
Fall.
what we'll do, I just pop some of the stuff in here. If I missed any stocks that we talked about this morning,
Okay.
free to carry them over. What I'll do is I'm going to go back and forth with seeing the charts and then seeing the list. And anybody who's just listening to this on the audio, you can always go right to the blog and take a look at all of them on tradingeducationblogs.com. So coming into the day, Marion, our call for the morning was obviously the news in China was out. We were going to get a lower opening, which I kind of didn't expect based on how the market closed on Friday. I was actually looking at the fact that the market actually closed near the highs and near the very strong Thursday highs. And the fact that we didn't close off in the afternoon, I really thought we were going to get followed through. So the lower opening really didn't bother me that much this morning. And we kind of got what we expected. We basically sold off a little bit from the open, quickly found our footing just around 10 o'clock, got this big bottoming tail, and it looked like we were okay, heading into
Right.
10:30, 11 o'clock, and then up in this area heading into lunch. Traditional day trading, generally speaking, you're going to get a little bit of consolidation during lunch. But there was just no other buyers around. Did you kind of see the same thing in individual stocks at that point?
Yeah, I did. And I saw nothing was setting up. We had very, very few things. I got into Baba short around lunchtime. I think it was at around 68. And there really wasn't many clear signals. That is so different from last week. But last week was a gift. We had 5 great days of trading.
Yep, I
Uh,
I think a
so
lot of people got thrown off guard a little bit today by the lack of volatility and the lack of volume. But I saw a lot of Facebook posting today about the market's just exhausted, and I really think that's a great description of it.
right, right. And I think people are taking maybe a wait and see attitude.
Yep, yep, I
You
agree.
know, they want it to unfold. That's what I was looking for today. That's why there were no volume on my part. I saw a few things also that in the early afternoon that gave me pause. The cues. I watched put and call ratios. The cues had an awful lot of put volume in them. Which gets me, wondering is it, which is, tech, real heavy tech.
And when you say put volume, can you clarify that a little bit? Is
So
that
in
put
other words,
buying?
people are, so it's a negative on the market. So they're either, they could be hedging, but when you see a lot of the puts coming in, which is a bear call on the tech sector in particular, but the market in general. And I did see a little bit in the spiders and the others, but particularly in the cues, it was really skewed off. Heavy,
Now,
heavy
you would think
put
if you were
volume.
hedging with the Qs, though, that would be after a significant move higher and you're buying
Right.
puts as protection, but that's not really even the case now. So is that implying that this is put buying, anticipating a move lower?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, I just want to clarify that, when people will stop me and say, "Oh no, it could be," so it could be covering, but I mean hedging, but I don't think that's what it was. I think that's where the mindset is right now. So we saw a lot of Q put volume, heavy Q put volume in the afternoon.
So as the day started to unfold, there were some pockets of opportunity we were going to, but I just want to pull up the actual pre-market list.
Okay.
There were on the buy side, we had mentioned some of these bigger stocks, obviously Netflix and whatnot. I'll actually go through this list, Marion. I'm just going to put it
Okay.
up here on the screen, and we'll go stock by stock to see how they actually
Okay.
unfolded. And the reasons why we were looking at them, because these are kind of the stuff that we were talking about in the pre-market meeting that we transposed from the blog. There is a few stocks that we're going to discuss right now, Netflix being one of them, where it was one of the few that although it had a large move, obviously large is relative to each stock last week, it was now above both key moving averages that short-term traders look at, which is the 20 and the 50 on the daily, and closed strong on both of them. So we did kind of give you the caveat that it was an awful lot to move in a short period of time, but the fact that we consolidated on Friday, I think that we had every reason in the world to expect that we would get followed through. And again, with the rest of the market around 11 o'clock, we kind of did. But earlier in the morning, it was a little bit choppy and the market was a little bit weaker. It was kind of where you see all these bottoming tails here, made a lot of indecision. So I don't think that 11:30-ish, 12 o'clock, it was as good as a buy as we were looking at it around the open. And that's actually an email that I got from somebody today about making pre-market calls leading into adjustments after the market opened. And the guy basically was implying that, well, you can't make adjustments after the market opened because you said you want it to be long or short these stocks. And I want to make it clear, we're not switching sides. We're saying that there might be better times of the day where the trade is a better trade. So in the morning, there was a lot of weakness. So you're not just getting long because you like the stock long. You want to wait for a better opportunity to be long.
Right, I agree with you. And also, I think we even discussed this in our 9:30 meeting when someone brought up a possibility of Netflix being a short. I said, I definitely don't think it's a buy right now, but I don't want to short a strong stock. To me,
exactly, and that's really where most traders get in trouble is they switch their bias midday or they don't even have a bias midday. And in my opinion, by a mile, that is one of the biggest reasons that a lot of traders who are talented struggle because they don't come into the day saying, whatever this stock does, I want to be a buyer today, and I'm going to look for opportunities where the risk reward makes sense versus where a lot of traders make the mistake and say, okay, I came into the day, I want it to be long. Again, let's just use this stock as an example, obviously. But then the stock rolls over and then they justify putting on a short sale. That's not a good trade.
Right, exactly.
So a couple of other ones that we're looking at today, BIG from the pre-market list. We did put a caveat on this that it was only the last couple of days that the stock was strong. However, it did clear some pretty big 20-day breakout levels and had a little bit of room to go where 48.50 was the next level. We got up there very, very quickly, and we were looking for it to clear that level, and it didn't. So that trade actually kind of got off the table right away. Next, we had FIS, which, as you can see, also is one of the few stocks that was clearly above the 20 and the 50. And just that alone gave it some good short-term relative strength, as well as we had an inside day on Friday. So we were looking at a strong stock, inside day consolidating, looking for a run at 72. And you can see here, for the most part, the stock traded below the open most of the day. So, again, nothing to do other than this one time around 10:30, 11 o'clock when it finally did. Probably got long there where it broke out of the high, stayed above the open, and ended up maybe with a small loss or a flat there, Marion, but that was probably the only time to get long there.
Right, yep, I agree.
We had a couple of other ones, INCY. Very basically the same thing. And, and again, this is where you as a trader, it's very common to say, okay, I want to be long, the stock goes higher, I get stopped out. I try it again on this bottoming tail, stock goes higher, and I get stopped out again. The question comes in, well, how many times do you try it until you're not burnt? How many times are you going to put your hand on the hot pot and keep getting burnt? And it's kind of a crappy answer, but it really boils down to is you need enough experience to realize that it's just not going to happen right now. I mean, there's some days where the market's not really trending that great. The VIX and the ticks were not really telling us anything, especially the ticks. The ticks were all over the place today. They were printing positive, negative. It was just atrocious today. SRPT. Another one from the list today, and again, you can see why, clearly above the 20 and the 50. And as a matter of fact, actually breaking out, actually did break out, stayed above the open for most of the day, but then when the market came in the afternoon, the stock did as well. So really not across the board depth to any buying today. HLF had it a little bit today, really nice jump out of the gate, but then faded, just traded on either side of the open. I think really the point that I want to get across here is that you need to take the trades that make sense in your game plan right away. And if they're not unfolding, you can't second guess yourself. That's where consistency comes from. Consistency comes from following your plan no matter what. So ATVI, we actually came into today saying we expected it to pull back for at least one more day before we look for a bid. It made a new 52-week high, and now it's very close to filling this gap. One of the stronger stocks in this sector, along with GME and Take-Two. and EA. But this is actually pulling right into the area that we were hoping to get a buy, which is around the 28-25 level. So that's setting up for tomorrow. Let's see. BBY actually did follow through today out of the gate and actually had a nice slow grinding trend day. And again, coming out of an inside day today, Marion.
Right, right. It was beautiful trade today. That was one of the stronger stocks this morning.
Yep. So healthy trade for BBY right now would be to consolidate up around this 37 level and then look for the next target around 39 and then ultimately 42. It's traveled a tremendous distance for this stock over the last week or so, and now had another good bullish day. But now it's into resistance at 37. So I think a couple of days consolidating at 37 would be a nice pause for this stock. Looking for 39 as the next target. We thought that there were some of the other stocks that were catching a bid today. ALK and JetBlue actually showing some intraday strength as oil was neutral to going down, but then a lot of the oil stocks, which we'll get to in a second, actually caught a bid, which affected these guys. They're a pretty good inverse trade every day. We had our UA, Foot Locker, and Nike, all strong within the first hour or so of the day, and then just couldn't find any more footing. One of the things that I saw quite a bit in Facebook groups today was that there was just lack of commitment by market leaders, and I really think that's a great way to describe it today. How about you?
I definitely agree. I saw volume fall off in so much also. All of a sudden, it was like everybody shut up shop and went home.
And I think there's two reasons for that. Normally you'd be like, oh, that's the one thing. I think it's the fact that we're heading into a 3-day weekend. I think the market is just exhausted and indecisive right now. I just can't imagine somebody taking a really aggressive position into all this indecision right now.
Right, I agree.
So those are the stocks we were looking to bid coming in today. Some of them worked out. Next, we actually have an interesting list. Stocks that showed relative weakness compared to Friday's close in the spiders above the open. So we'll go through this list real quick, and a few of them actually rolled over. And then we had some other pretty decent sell shorts as well. But the list that had weakness coming into the day, there was BITA. Oops. So you could see on Friday here, it actually was weak to the market closing strong, and it's been in a pretty nice downtrend for a few weeks. Today, it actually traded above the open the entire day, so it never triggered a trade today. Just because the stock is in the list on long or short, it still has to trigger correctly for you. Next, we have BXLT. Really nothing here. I mean, basically trading on either side of the open the entire day. And this is actually something that you should be looking for as a trader too. I know, Marion, you and I discussed this quite a bit. When we start to see a stock wicking out, where there's a lot of topping tails, bottoming tails, you're immediately showing that there's not a commitment or a commitment to stay with that bid or offer. And that alone should have told you not to be bidding aggressively in there. And you can kind of see what happened after that, which led to basically going sideways the rest of the day.
Right, and there's no institutional interest, and you want those big guys on your side.
Exactly. I didn't word it correctly. Thank you for picking me up there, partner. MYL actually was one of the weak ones on Friday relative to the market as well. You can see here on Friday, closed well below the open. If I'm not mistaken, the scan was closing 2% below the open. And other than the first half hour here, we ended up trading below the open the rest of the day. Not exactly a smooth trend down day, but clearly below the open. You could have been looking at some of these inside candles.
That's a nice call. You called that early on in the 9:30 meeting.
Tried to set up a good list this morning because I knew we were going to be very stock specific again today. VMW was another one that set up that same criteria and just caught a bid in the afternoon. So once it traded above the open here, it got off the table. Again, the better trades are when you're trading in sync with your longer term picture as well as below today's open. So longer term order flow is in sync with today's order flow, and you would not have gotten caught on the wrong side of this because it was already above the opening price and trading near the high. So you're not going to short a stock above the open and near the high, so you wouldn't have got hit there. Let's see. Some regular weaker stocks that were just bull or bear flags. We actually were talking about CVX on this bear flag hitting the 20-period moving average right out of the gate and selling off, but then caught a bid. Same thing with Exxon. So both of those stocks still, which we discussed a little bit this morning, showing some good relative strength. Now, is it short covering, as we said this morning, or is it new buying? I don't know, but that's a pretty impressive rally today.
Right. Yep, it was. PXD was another one that had a really nice rally in it that we've been watching for a while.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this industry and sector unfolds here, Mary, because I think it's confusing a lot of people because they were technically setting up as really, really good
Shorts, yeah.
sell shorts, and they're not rolling over. So you have to really, when what should happen doesn't happen, you have to really work the order a little bit more as opposed to saying, I'm going in full boat because I really like the short. I think should have rolled over twice, did not roll over either day. So I'd be more inclined to waiting for a little more confirmation intraday.
And it never even gave you a short setup, a clear picture that it was at any point was going to roll over.
Maybe here where we had an inside candle on this pullback, but it never triggered the entry, so it didn't even give me
Right,
the
that's right.
entry.
Yeah, you had an inside, but then it went inside and up.
Yep,
And I was
exactly.
like, okay.
Exactly. And my last trade that I had today that I really was looking forward to was TXN. We had a beautiful support level, which now should be resistance, pulled back really clean, lower volume last couple of days. And we sold off a little bit in the morning. This flag, I was looking to sell short after this push down, but it just never rolled over. We actually had another entry here, and that didn't follow through either. So you had two different failed entries to the short side, which should have told you take a step back because both of the trades were trading in sync with the market prior to 11, and neither one of them rolled over. Then the market got strong, so you're certainly not going to short, even though you liked it coming into the day.
Right.
The interesting list to me coming into the day was this list, the inside day list. We had both commented today that the list was gigantic. Obviously, you can see this, on any normal day, this list is probably around 10. Today was probably around 4 times that size, but I put in bold letters here that just why I think it's important to watch this list and why we put it in. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different stocks here, and especially our buddy down here, Marion. I don't know if you saw what GMC did today.
I did.
Holy macaroni. Let's take a look at that one first. So we want to give everybody the setup and why it's important to watch. Essentially, what we're looking to do is on the daily chart, when you have a consolidation, otherwise known as an inside day, that's essentially a consolidation in order flow. And from inside days, and especially from multiple inside days, which this one wasn't, but I'm just making a point, you expect an expansion in volatility. Now, if there's a trend, you can call or forecast that it's going to expand in the direction of that longer term trend to give you an intraday trend. But there's quite a few times, and Goldman Sachs did the same thing today, where we said we're going to call an expansion in volatility, but not necessarily direction. And Goldman was good for $3 on the breakout of the inside day. Again, even though that gave it back, but you can see a really clean day. But GMCR fit that criteria again today too, where we say we're looking for an expansion in volatility, but not calling direction. And 53.60-ish to 57, so almost $3.50 there just out of an inside day. And we'll go over a couple more here too. Morgan Stanley, very similar to Goldman Sachs. ACN, very similar. And what's interesting here is that it traded below the open the entire day. So we had an inside day breakdown, and the entire day had selling order flow. And if you did not participate in any of this, what was going on here, the market was actually rallying here in ACN between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and ACN was still very comfortably below the open. So coming into the day, you're looking for a trend day. It's showing relative weakness to the market, and you get a little bit of consolidation here, not quite 2 inside candles, but definitely could have considered looking for a short because you're going to manage the risk there and you get a really clean dollar plus on the downside there. Our buddies VLO, our buddies, because we were very happy with them a week and a half ago. Got some really clean breakout today. And again, the breakout is normally outside of the previous day's range, so I just want to make that clear. But we did get some pretty good expansion and volatility in both of these. And what I'm really making sure we do here is we point out the trade setup so that you can look at it in the future on your own. J&J, which is normally not a great trending intraday stock, clearly an inside day here, and a really nice trend day below the open for most of the entire day. So this is really what you want to get a look at. You want to expect an expansion in volatility, which essentially means a trend day. And if you end up getting it, you look for intraday patterns to continue to trade in that direction. It's not a trade you would trade as a momentum trade. You're really looking to hold it for as much of the day as possible. Did you have any short sales that that we missed there, Marion?
Oh, well, Bob, I think we had called it out this morning, and it gave great signals, and it followed through, and it closed really poorly.
So looking for follow through on that with the next
support. Right, if a break is 66 there.
Yeah, well, so looking for follow through on that one. And what about on the market? I mean, we pretty much closed flat from the open, right? about as close as you can get, maybe just a little below the open. But
Yeah, we're just a little below the opening, but they did bring it back. I was noticing some of the weaker stocks of volume at the end of the day really picked up. Look at the volume on BABA at the end of the day. Look at the volume on Facebook. Facebook, I came in. Actually, I was long coming in. I got rid of it. Still thought it was a long if we could get a setup, and there was nothing long about that stock today.
this was actually something that we saw in quite a few stocks today, where stocks were negative that we liked coming into the day, but negative for most of the day. And they got up to the opening price, and we started to see a lot of wicks or indecision or doji type candles where there was just massive indecision for new buying today after the open, and that led to a lot of stocks failing on a push higher, which was interesting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Facebook did. I wasn't a short, but it was clearly no longer a long.
So what are you thinking about tomorrow? I have to say, I hate to say it, actually, but it is what it is. I don't have a lot of conviction on either side right now.
Well, you know what? Maybe we get another maybe inside day, neutral day. We, although it's the first day of the month, and of course you get the funds with the money coming into them on the first day of the month sometimes. But what I think people are going to sit back and wait until they see the direction the market's taking. I think you have a lot of people who are going to sit on the sidelines right now.
I think that's the smart move. And let's face it, most of the crowd, the audience that we trade with, Marion, we're either day traders or swing traders for these types of technical setups. And right now, some people might find this crazy right now, but I think it's actually lower risk to be a day trader right now because you could be flat. You can adjust your expectations as the market's unfolding. Holding swing trades right now is I think 50-50 at best.
Yeah, look at what Tesla did today. I was in Tesla on Thursday, got out, and I mean, it looked like it was going this morning, and then it just fell apart.
Well, we did have the 250 number that we were watching for a while there, and it kept hesitating right around that area and finally popped through there.
Right. It got over it, but it could not stay there.
So afternoon weakness, is it selling or is it just lack of interest? I'm a little more inclined to think right now it's lack of interest because I think if it was selling, we would have sold off harder.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. And also I think the volume, we would have seen more volume in particular ones. I actually agree. And maybe we have people, okay, they got in this morning, they got out this afternoon. Okay, goodbye,
So just over 100 million shares, about 137 in the SPY, which is kind of normal for what it's been doing.
Right.
Anything over 100 is okay. 137 is a little bit better than normal for this time of year. But I normally have a really good read on the flow of the market, and I don't have one right now. If you just go off of the last 5 days, tomorrow should be selling off just based on push down retracement. Yeah, but then you can sit here and you can make the argument for the other side that now we're consolidating for 2 days. Who knows? It's not easy to read right now.
Well, I'll tell you, put call ratio. There's support at 195 there. I could see it getting down to there.
195, so about $2.50 from where we are now.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's some. I mean, the real strong support is at 190, but there's definitely some support there at 195.
So coming into today, we had a weekend, and then we had some pretty strong overnight news in China or weekend news in China. If we don't have anything earth-shattering like that coming to tomorrow, I would think we're going to open flat, and then it's really going to be waiting to see who tips their hand first between 9:30 and 10 o'clock tomorrow.
I agree, and it's also going to be the same thing that happened today, real stock specific. If you had gotten into one of hundreds of different stocks, you would have done nothing today because they didn't trade. I mean, they traded so weakly.
Definitely the tape to get caught up where you're buying the highs and losing money, shorting the lows and losing money. And actually, Netflix was a really good example of that today. Buying the highs, you got slapped back, shorting the lows, you got all these wicks that didn't work. Looking for another breakout that didn't work. Looking for the breakdown that didn't work. So you got to really be. I think that the best trades today are the ones that where the stock actually has moved for a few days in a row, where you get some higher highs, higher lows. And you could kind of trade that extreme and fade it if so to speak, if you like it, that kind of thing. But going to be a lot of game planning again tonight. You got to really dig in tonight. You can't afford to risk money in this market without doing your homework right now, because if you're just looking for something to trade after the market opens, you're lost. So I think that's why people should be joining us in the morning meetings.
I agree.
It's the whole point. Hashing that stuff out before the market opens. You don't want to be finding stuff at 9:30. You want to be prepared at 9:30, just looking to execute.
Right, and you've got your list in front of you, and you can tick off the ones that aren't working, and you can get into and play with the ones that are working. But you can't possibly look at 5,000 stocks at 9:30.
Especially in this tape. Maybe you can get away with it when the market's really obvious and the market just carries anything you bid, but we're absolutely not in that kind of tape right now.
Right, and the market carried a lot of, selling and buying last week, but it's not going to do that anymore.
Yep.
For right now.
Day to day last week was a little easier to tell if you want it to be long or short. Today, not so much.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so we'll call it a wrap, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.